Browsing the internet is not really working on your freight broker business. People talk about how busy they are in the freight broker business from day to day, and yes, there's a lot to do in a freight broker business, but the question is not how busy you are. The question is, what are you busy doing? Because we know that there are major things that we should be focused on that get the results that we want in a business, and then there are minor things. Don't confuse major with the minor. And if you focus on the minor things, it might seem as if you're really busy, like you have a whole lot going on. But at the end of the day, having a lot going on does not necessarily mean you're productive. And we want to be productive as freight brokers in our business, right? So we have to focus on the major things. So what I will do for you today is I'm going to identify what the major things are in the freight broker business and what the minor things are. That way we don't confuse the two and we make sure that we stay on the right track. Now, we do understand that minor activities have relevance as well. They are part of the process. We have to do the minor things in order to get to the bigger things, right? But at the same time, we don't want to major in minor things. We want to make sure that we're majoring in major things and letting minor things be just what they are. Minor things that lead to those big results. And that's in the major category, right? So let's take a look at some minor activity, right? Now, we're going to look at them in a trio here. Let's say, for example, the overall arching thought here is to get a customer, right? So in order to get a customer, we have to research that customer. We got to go out and we have to organize that customer on a customer spreadsheet. We have to start making our sales calls, right? Those are the three activities that we can call minor activities to lead to the big major activity, and that's talking on the phone with the shipper about your offer. How many shippers are you actually on the phone with? Because that's the major activity, you communicating with that shipper, talking about at some point you and he or you and she starting to do business together, right? So the trio leads to the major activity. And just so we're clear, I don't mean you talking on the phone to the gatekeeper or talking to someone in the shipping department. No, I am talking about you communicating one-on-one with the person that makes decisions about freight movement. That's the shipping manager, the transportation manager. Maybe they call him the traffic manager, but the person who makes the decision about freight movement. Let's talk about another trio of activities that lead to one major activity, right? All right, so now you know if we're getting a rate for our shippers, we have to go through a process to get that rate. The major activity here is to get a rate back to the shipper, right? And why do we call that the major activity? Well, the reason for that is because it's all about opportunities, having opportunities in front of you to give those rates to your shipper. So that's an opportunity to give a rate to the shipper, because we could capitalize by giving that rate to the shipper and say, the shippers could say, hey, you've been awarded this lane, right? So opportunities is the key. Now, with that said, let's go back and take a look at the trio of activities that lead to you getting a rate to your shipper. Number one, I have to go out and do some lane research, right? And I'll be looking at things like capacity, the number of trucks available in the lane to me. I also probably compare the loads to the trucks. You've probably heard that referred to as load to truck ratio. That gives you a better idea of where you need to be on your number. So these are still minor activities. Let's talk about some more minor activities. Also, you're going to probably take a look at and start posting freight. The reason why I'm going to post freight is because I need to see what kind of activity I have in that lane. When I post freight, how soon are carriers going to call me on that load? Are carriers calling me on that load? All of this is a part of research. All of these activities are still minor activities. Let's talk about another minor activity. After you post freight, then you want to start talking to carriers, right? We're going to talk to carriers to zone in on what we could actually get loads moved for. What type of activity are we getting from carriers in that lane? How are negotiations going in that lane? This all will help us to come up with a rate to take back to the shipper, which is the number one, the major activity when we look at these as a whole. All right, so now let's see if we can agree. We've talked about, to this point, a host of minor activities, and those things have to take place, but that's not where we should be spending the majority of our time. We've identified two major activities, and that's where we need to spend most of our time. The first major activity is talking to customers, talking to shippers, traffic managers, people who can make decisions about freight. And the second was being able to provide rates back to shippers, because it's all about opportunity. The more opportunities we have, the more successful we can be. The next set of activities that we'll talk about that lead up to that number one activity that we want to focus most of our time on is very similar to the last set, except this time we're doing it at a greater scale, because now we actually have authorization to move the load. In the previous example, we were searching for a rate. Now we've gotten a rate, we've taken it to the shipper, and now we have authorization. The shipper has signed our rate request, and now we're trying to start selling that load to the carrier. So the main focus, the main activity is selling that load to the carrier. The preliminary activities that fall under that are, hey, we got to go out and research the lane, and we have to post that lane and then start talking to carriers. Those are the preliminaries leading to the main thing, selling that freight to carriers. Focus on the main thing. Those three main things are the most important things that we do all day, every day. At the end of the day, the week, the month, I think there's three questions that you have to ask yourself as a freight broker. Number one, how many shippers did I talk to that can actually make decisions as far as freight movement? How many times did I put my offer in front of a shipper? Number two, how many times did I provide rates back to those shippers? And how many times did I capitalize on that opportunity? And then finally, when I've gotten a chance to sell loads to carriers, what has been the result of those sales? So those are the three things that I think that you need to pay particular attention to. Yes, we have some minor activities that we have to do. We have to, of course, include as part of the process. All I'm saying is, don't major in minor things. Focus your attention on the things that are going to bring you the big results. That's what I wanted to share with you today. I certainly hope this information has been helpful. If you want to learn more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series, and I titled it, How the Load Movement Process Works. It'll give you a chance to come into the office with me, and you can watch me as I move loads, talk to shippers and carriers. That way you can get a better understanding of how this business works before you come into it. And then if you're interested in learning more about transitioning from a part-time freight broker to a full-time freight broker, I'll leave a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.